So ladies and gentlemen, Colin Cowherd recently put out a piece on his show, The Herd, about how Cowboys fans are being dismissive over losing Dalton Schultz and Amari Cooper and how that overall impacts Dak Prescott and the Cowboys team and all this other stuff. So what I wanted to do is put together a video like we've done before and just listen to what he has to say and see if it really makes any sense. So sit back, relax, and let's dive straight into it. Now before we begin today's video, if you guys could do me a favor and hit the like button and also subscribe if you're new and hit the notification bell as well. The reason I mention that in every video because 79.3% of you guys watching are not subscribed. So if you keep coming around and you like what you're seeing, why don't you subscribe so you don't miss out on the content and it goes into your sub box, and if you hit that notification bell, you get notified when I go live or put videos out like this. So with that disclaimer out of the way, what we're going to do is listen to what Colin Cowherd had to say, then we'll go ahead and discuss.
Dallas Cowboy fans are odd. They're bizarrely dismissive of people that are really, really good Cowboys that leave. And then they're overly optimistic of average Cowboys who enter. I think that's called delusion. But it's so funny. So Amari Cooper leaves the Cowboys. And they're like, no big deal, ho home. This year in Cleveland, he had 9 touchdowns and almost 80 catches in quarterback dysfunction land. He's one of the top 15 receivers in the NFL. Oh, no big deal. You guys ever looked at Dak Prescott's stats with Amari Cooper and without? In his career with Amari Cooper, he has a quarterback rating of 103. Without it, 92. It's a different quarterback. A quarterback to a B. With him, he throws for 297 yards. Without him, he throws for 223. He's a Pro Bowler with him. He's kind of average. He's Kirk Cousins without him. What do you mean ho-hum on Amari Cooper? You've never rebounded from that.
So this is one of the rare occasions where I agree with Colin on this particular point. Because if you were a Cowboys fan that thought that you can take Amari Cooper, who, when healthy and we have no issues whatsoever, top 15 receiver in the league, without a doubt. You get rid of him, you do nothing whatsoever to replenish that talent that was lost, and you went into the first game of your season with letting go of Amari Cooper, with having CeeDee Lamb, Dennis Houston, and Noah Brown as your primary 3 guys on opening day. That is delusional to think that you're going to get the same level of production with those guys as you would with Lamb and Amari Cooper and such. That is the part where I get where he's going at there. Because it is delusional. Like, there are Cowboys fans that thought we were okay at the wide receiver position when I and many others were screaming from the hilltops, this is not good. We need a receiver to replace Amari Cooper. They didn't do anything. In fact, what makes me laugh about it is in the entirety of the season, they tried to get Brandon Cooks earlier. They tried to go after Jerry Jeudy. They added T.Y. Hilton, who ironically won them a game because they actually finally made a move for the wide receiver spot. And the wide receiver position, or even pass catchers in general, were the reason you lost in the divisional round. You could talk about Dak Prescott not playing well, but that plays a factor in that. You know, if you want to call him Kirk Cousins without Amari Cooper, can we just stop the Kirk Cousins slander? And I'm not saying that to defend Dak Prescott. If you know me, I'm consistent in talking about Kirk Cousins. I'm sick and tired of people thinking he's a shitty quarterback or he's an average quarterback. Kirk Cousins at his absolute worst is like a top 13 quarterback in the National Football League. I don't know how he became the poster child for being an average QB and like this is what an average quarterback looks like, because the term average has been diluted so much people actually don't understand what being an average quarterback is like. To me, an average quarterback is like Jimmy Garoppolo or Ryan Tannehill at this juncture of his career. That is average QB play. You know, that you have bad QB play. But for guys like Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, and I'll throw in Matt Stafford, for example, they are guys that are in a tier where they are franchise quarterbacks that are not massive force multipliers like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or even a Joe Burrow, for example, like those top 3 guys. But if you give them weapons to work with, they can seriously cook and play really damn good football, right? Average QBs, when you give them weapons and they don't do anything, having a different conversation there. And of course, people will disagree with what I have to say there, but I really don't care at the end of the day. Matthew Stafford won a championship for the exact reasoning like I told you. You put him around a team that can seriously do some damage, and he can cook. He threw 40-something odd touchdowns, and he led the league with interceptions, but no one gave a shit about that. Why? Because they ultimately won the championship and were one of the better teams that year. You look at Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, when he's surrounded with talent, he had career years with said talent. Dak Prescott, you could throw the same echelon in, and that's okay. The part about being a good organization, and we're going to move on to the next couple points he has, is that you recognize the guy that you have and you work with him. If you think that Dak Prescott is not good enough to be a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen caliber kind of guy, whatever you want to compare to him as, then do what you got to do to get him talent. Don't make him something that he isn't. Work with what he is.
Dallas loses offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. No big deal. Mike McCarthy will call the plays. The hell are you talking about? Kellen Moore took a season last year where Cooper Rush started 5 games. They were rebuilding the O-line. They had lost Amari Cooper. They had only the one legitimate wide receiver. And they were 4th in scoring. And now he goes to Justin Herbert. And then Dalton Schultz yesterday leaves Dallas, goes to the Texans. Oh, no big deal. We'll just draft a college tight end. What? Dalton Schultz has been Dak Prescott's security blanket. The last 3 years, he's had 17 touchdowns. Top 5 for a tight end in the league. Last 3 years, he's had 282 targets. Top 4 in the league. Last 3 years, he's had 2,000 yards. Top 7 in the league. Dalton Schultz is an excellent tight end. A total security blanket. Amari Cooper's a number 1 wide receiver. Dak's not the same quarterback without him. Kellen Moore made you a top 4 scoring offense with 1 receiver, a rebuilt offensive line, tenuous admiration for the head coach, no Amari Cooper, and yet you're all fired up because Stephon Gilmore is coming to you. It's the 4th team in 4 years. He's going to be a 33-year-old corner. 4th team's moved off him, 4 years. And then Brandon Cooks are all fired up for. He's been traded 4 times. He's got a concussion issue. I talked to 2 GMs yesterday. They love Brandon Cooks. Great kid. His career gives you about 1,000 yards. Not changing outcomes. Not really a security blanket. Cowboy fans are odd. You're bizarrely dismissive of losing Amari Cooper, Kellen Moore, and Dalton Schultz. Those are Houston Texans just stole a really good tight end. Cleveland Browns stole a number 1 wide receiver. The Chargers stole one of the best, smartest young offensive coordinators in football. No big deal. We got Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. I mean, they're fine. But Dalton Schultz in 60 career games with Dak, 15 touchdowns, 163 catches, 1,700 receiving yards for a tight end who you'd never heard of before he arrived there. He goes to the Texans. No big deal. We'll just draft a guy out of college. No, you won't, because I got news for you. The Chargers want a tight end. The Lions need a tight end. The Jets may go after a tight end. A lot of these teams in the first round are targeting tight ends, and I think the Cowboys draft like 26. You're not getting the kid from Utah. You're not getting the kid from Notre Dame. And because of where your draft picks are, you're not going to get one of the top 4 or 5 tight ends. It's highly unlikely you will. And the 6th best tight end in college ain't close to Dalton Schultz. I'll tell you that. Cowboy fans are odd. I think it's called delusion. Bizarrely dismissive of really impactful players that leave and coaches, and overly optimistic about guys who are like on their 4th team in 4 years. I don't get it at all.
Okay, I, honest to God, don't know what he's trying to get at here, but I think it's hilarious because going off of the parameters that he just set, okay, we're going off of what he is saying about Dak Prescott. He says he's kind of average without Amari Cooper, but then goes on to praise Kellen Moore, saying, oh, look at the top 4 offense they had with just 1 wide receiver, a good tight end, a rebuilding offensive line, and Cooper Rush, and all this other stuff. Well, what does that mean about Dak Prescott then? Like, if we're talking about that comparably with Dak, doesn't that make Dak Prescott look a lot better? like, say what you want about him, but, like, that's where I don't understand. It's not like when Dak Prescott came back from injury, the offense was shit. It was a top 3 offense in the National Football League. And, by the way, if you want to talk about Cooper Rush, that offense was bottom of the league, like 27th overall. It was not a good offense whatsoever. In fact, we had these conversations. It was because the defense was playing so goddamn good and elite level that they were able to start off the way they did. I just don't get it. You know, you say what you want about Kellen Moore, but you know how we talked about him here? Kellen Moore is a dude that could not get things straight. You know, there would be moments where he looked really brilliant, and then he would just go into a turtle shell and get all scared and would run the same routes, use the option routes, which really caused this offense a lot of fits. But going over to the whole Dalton Schultz thing, because he talks highly of Dalton Schultz, and I don't have any doubts about that. Dalton Schultz is a good tight end in the NFL. No one's disputing that. What is, however, the funny thing is I don't think Colin really has done his research on the Cowboys, because, you know, Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot were big names that were talked about, and one of the big reasons why the Cowboys said, you know what, we'll give Dalton Schultz the offer of 3 years, $36 million. If he doesn't take it, then we'll just roll with the guys we have here. You know, like, when Dalton Schultz was hurt, those two guys really stepped up. They were blocking. They were being threats in the vertical game. They were good. People are acting like these two guys are complete trash. But here's the thing. I can't understand that, hey, there isn't a whole lot of a sample size because, you know, you had Dalton Schultz in the room. But the guys we have on this roster aren't scrubs. And then talking about drafting a tight end. Okay, I mean, if the Cowboys draft a tight end, and it's Dalton Kincaid, hypothetically, really good prospect, to say the least. The Cowboys don't need to draft a tight end. Ironically, Dalton Schultz was a 4th-round pick. So was Jake Ferguson. And, you know, you can see Jake Ferguson really becoming a legitimate threat at tight end down the road. And that's what I think is going to happen. Now that him and Hendershot kind of have the room to themselves, and assuming the Cowboys don't draft a tight end, they'll be good to go. So there's that, and then he talks about the whole Brandon Cooks trade and, oh, Stephon Gilmore. There's a reason these guys are there. Listen, no one is hyping these moves up to be like they are all pro. They're going to get this shit done. They are the best at what they do. No one's going that hyperbolic. They're good moves that ultimately help the Cowboys upgrade at positions of need, and they make them a better team than what they were last year. You know, I don't want to go on and on and on, you know, because, you know, this is just where we're at. I don't know what Colin is trying to say here, but dude, it's just a whole lot of contradictions. You know, you can't say that Dak Prescott's average, but then go on to talk about how the offense was, like, literally with all these conditions, surprisingly top 4. You can talk about, okay, so then what is going on here? And of course, I understand it. He's on a national radio and TV broadcast, and he has to talk about every other team. So you're not going to be super, super deeply ingrained with every single team. But for me, I can only speak for myself for the position I'm in. If you're going to talk about something, just try to know what you're talking about and don't try to act like you know what you're talking about. That's just how I go about it. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. So I just wish Colin Cowherd would do that a little bit more, but it just seems like he's just, again, like any other media personality, just throwing shit out there. So with that being said, guys, if you did enjoy this little reaction, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit that notification bell as well. This is Space Cowboy Media signing out. Have a good one.